So here we are, my friends. What we have all been wondering about for the past year has finally happened. Rocksteady has announced the closure of Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League after their upcoming Season 4, and quite honestly, everyone is asking the same question: what the hell took so long? I had a Rivals video I was going to make today, and I still might, but I heard the news and felt like I wanted to make a video discussing what happened with Rocksteady and how this legendary studio went from everything we needed in a hero to one of the biggest zeros in the industry. If you're old enough to remember when the Arkham games first released, you remember how revolutionary they were to the genre of single-player games. From the superb environmental and enemy design to the sophisticated counter-based combat system, the Arkham series not only made giant waves of success, but also inspired much of the industry to imitate its style, as it was addicting and very satisfying. There was something about those games other than the combat that made them great, the characters and the story. Leading up to the era of those games, the character of Batman had risen to incredible heights of popularity due to the Christopher Nolan Dark Knight films. And as great as those films were, the grounded, more realistic, tactical Batman that they gave us left more hardcore comic book and animated series fans, such as myself, wanting for a more accurate representation of Batman. And boy, did we get it. In my opinion, this Batman is still the greatest interpretation of the character we have ever received. It mixes the perfect, nuanced charisma and intelligence the animated series gives us with the badass, brawling, technological genius we encounter from the comics. Not only was Batman the paradigm of what his character should be, but the majority of his supporting cast and rogues gallery were as well. From Harley Quinn to Ra's al Ghul all the way to Oracle, these games made you feel like Batman was fighting his villains alongside his friends. And although Arkham Origins and Arkham Knight did not receive the warmest receptions upon release, they have since been recognized as the masterpieces that they have always been, especially now that we know how rotten the grass has gotten since. Suicide Squad Kills the Justice League was a game that was in development since 2012 and released 12 years later in February of 2024. Although that is a total of 12 years of development time, considering Arkham Knight released in 2015, they most likely did not begin the bulk of the production until after that. At announcement in 2020, fans were originally quite excited for the new spin on the DC universe, and the popularity surrounding the Suicide Squad characters was high. Rocksteady, at this point, had zero misses, and fans were excited to see what magic this nostalgic studio could create. Unfortunately, there was some internal discourse at Rocksteady, and many of the original creators of the games we loved periodically began to leave the studio before Suicide Squad released. Most notably, the two founders of the studio, Sefton Hill and Jamie Walker, left just months before release. Although there were no reports of negative experience to cause something like this, other than the pair claiming they wanted to begin a new adventure in gaming, their timely exit, along with Suicide Squad's uncharacteristically capitalist nature and subsequent problems upon release, implies some sort of disagreement occurred. Hill and Walker would go on to start a new publishing company called 100 Star. So what made this game dead on arrival? I mean, everything was lined up for it to succeed, and yet it couldn't reach the finish line. Was it the lazy boss design?
Oh, my name's Phil Donks.
He's now...
I'm the fastest man alive.
What? Why?
He literally turns into the first boss battle. So 3 of the 5 boss battles are the Flash. The same mechanics. It is so lazy and insulting.
The cringe character moments.
As honorable warriors, we will show proper respect to this fallen hero. By
Show a little class, man. Holy shit. Congratulations.
And I've got to say, in all honesty,
makes sense. The gods have cursed
it's
you
the
and
biggest
every
piece of
other
dog
life.
shit.
The repetitive combat and enemies.
That it becomes a chore to keep doing. Now, and I don't think it's even really the gameplay's fault. I think that's the fault of the lack of enemy variety. There's only 3 enemies in the game, I'm pretty sure. I think there's just 3. And the way you fight them doesn't change. You do the same thing for every single enemy. You don't have to fight them a special way or do anything different to beat them. You just keep pumping them full of lead, occasionally counter, and that's really it.
The fact that these were highly skilled, superpowered beings with unique abilities, all using relatively generic guns, the technical issues at launch. The problem with this game was the intention behind it. And that can really sum up the majority of the issues we face in our corporate entertainment world. The game was never intended to be a game. This game was intended to be an expensive, flashy cash grab with a big IP behind it and mobile game monetization tactics to manipulate players into spending time and money on a minimum viable product. I wonder if they were watching the swift downfall of the Avengers game in real time. A game that had similarly greedy intentions, but a much better story, character design, and gameplay. And I wonder if they began nervously sweating at the shitstorm they had just spent the last decade cooking up.
Hey, knock it off! There's a kid back there!
I'm in danger!
Even Gotham Knights understood to throw the greedy microtransaction live service model in the garbage once they saw what happened with Avengers, and that still barely saved that game. Side note, Gotham Knights was actually a solid single-player co-op experience and got way more hate than it deserved, despite appealing to fans' wishes and developing a fun, contained story with some of the best character interactions we have seen out of those four, maybe ever. But that's for another video. For the record, this is not an attack on the developers. The game itself is technically polished and looks very nice. The developers clearly did as best a job as they could with what they had. In these situations, the fault almost always lies with the corporate higher-ups that simply want to use the game and the IP for money. And so focus that process on that rather than making a good game that will sell because it's good. These guys used every marketing trick in the book to hype this game up while masking its very obvious flaws. The most heinous of which was connecting this to the Arkhamverse with zero effort for actual continuation. They simply wanted to cash in on the Arkham title because they knew the world they created couldn't hold up a glass of water, let alone a plot. And even when they do, they treat my boy like this.
Oh, bet you didn't think it'd be me at the end, huh, Bets?
Are we done with your bad stand-up routine?
Almost. But you always gotta end on your best joke.
Alright, I couldn't help putting the actual clip, so I posted a great alternate ending from the creator Jen Pachi. I will link their channel below. What they did was such a slap in the face to not just the Arkhamverse, not just to fans, but to Kevin Conroy, the voice of Batman, who had tragically passed shortly after the release of this game. Rest in peace. This game pissed off so many people and just had nothing to back it up. The gameplay was boring and repetitive, designed only to make a person grind. Rocksteady showed their innovative, genre-changing days were gone, and instead they decided to double down on this new corporate shell they lived in and continued to release seasons and characters that nobody even asked for. A terribly designed Joker, a gender-swapped Mr. Freeze, Lawless, a character literally no one ever asked for, and now, I imagine as a last-ditch effort to make some money before dipping, a cool-looking Deathstroke. My question is, are they going to ruin Arkham Deathstroke as well? One of the best boss battles we have ever received in the entire game series, and also one of the worst. As I mentioned, this is their effort of introducing a fan-favorite character that should have a kit perfect for a game setting like this, in an effort to make back any of their investment they most definitely lost on this expensive and fruitless venture. This game was supposed to be Rocksteady's biggest project. Over a decade of development time and investment going toward a game that was supposed to rival the likes of Destiny with its longevity. It was even a cool Elseworlds concept that could have been more deeply explored if done correctly, but unfortunately, Warner Brothers' greed was their downfall once again. Another DC project failing because a few soulless suits wanted to make a buck is a tale as old as time, it seems. I hope the future looks better than this and VR games that are also cashing in on the Arkham title, and if we're lucky, they will open their eyes and make games like they used to once again. The future of Rocksteady is pretty rocky for now as well, so we'll see if the studio can even survive something like this. Hopefully they get their act together. Until then, Marvel is continuing to kill it in the games department with projects like Spider-Man and Rivals, and I cannot wait to learn more about the upcoming Wolverine game. But that's all for now. Stay frosty, guys. I'll catch you on the next one. See ya.